Let's talk about Little Nightmares. Now, I didn't. I've probably said this multiple times. I haven't said it in a while, but I love Little Nightmares. The first Little Nightmares, I don't even remember when it was released, but I slept on that thing for years. Then, when Little Nightmares 2 released in, I think it was 2021, I saw the alert on Steam. I was like, huh, okay, cool, and ignored it. But then, last year, 2022, I was like, fuck it. I saw Jacksepticeye's playthrough of Little Nightmares 2 show up in my subscription feed, not subscription feed, in my YouTube recommended. And I was like, fuck it, I'll check it out. And I fell in love. Now, you don't need to know this. Basically everyone knows what Little Nightmares is. It's a great video game series that you could classify as horror, but it's hard to classify it, really. It sort of defies genres, but also sort of doesn't. It's hard to explain. So the first Little Nightmares is amazing. It has problems, like trying to move in a straight line is extremely difficult. So sections where you balance on a plank or some shit is it's either really easy or you fall off immediately. There's no in between. So it has its problems, but it's extremely polished, which, with how games are nowadays, having a game be polished on release is a fucking miracle. But back then, unless it was a Bethesda game, that shit was normal. Bethesda games are never polished. Just look at Skyrim. You can still break that game without even trying. But yeah, it had its problem. It has a couple of problems, but for the most part, it's basically perfect. Well, not perfect, but it is extremely good. With every monster being unsettling in its own way, either Roger, just everything about Roger, his arms being like 3 times his size, or the chefs being just generally disgusting, and the guests, I don't even know how to explain the guests other than average American. But then Little Nightmares 2. Like I said, Little Nightmares 2 was my first introduction to the series, but goddamn, I feel like it improved on everything. Everything that wasn't perfect in the first game was perfected in the second game. Everything. The monster designs went from on point to holy shit, you cannot top this. Like, the hunter gives echoes back to the first game's monsters, especially Roger, but like just with the fact that they wear masks. The teacher being fucking Mrs. Incredible or Elastigirl, whichever you prefer, on nightmare fuel, like that. She's basically crackhead Elastigirl, and being extremely terrifying. Seriously, even when she looks as normal as anything can look in Little Nightmares, she's still terrifying, just with her animations look sort of stop motion but sort of fluid. They're too fluid to be stop motion, but they're too but they're not smooth enough or fluid enough to be real motion. There's just her animations are unsettling. There are somewhere between fluid and stop motion, but it's somewhere in the middle where it can't be either. And the fact that her head is just way too big, though that might just be me misremembering right now because it's been a bit. Now the only real problem I have with Little Nightmares 2 is the combat, because they put combat in this one, and it kind of sucks. Like, yeah, a horror game, you don't want the combat to just be like, I am God, kneel before me. But you don't want this bullshit either. I mean, this is like, the combat is extremely clunky. You can deal with it, but it is extremely clunky. It's not fun. But other than that, Little Nightmares 2 is basically perfect. Monster designs are not just on point, but basically perfect. They combined Slender Man and the bitch from The Ring into the and added Mr. X's hat. That's an important thing to add. But like everything is perfect. We also have Very Little Nightmares, which I've never played. It's a mobile game. I'm not very familiar with it. I've seen a playthrough, but I do not know if it's fun, if it's controls well, anything. It might be. I don't know. I don't know how the community looks at that one, to be honest. Now, Little Nightmares 3 got announced. And you'd think I'd be ecstatic. But there's a problem. Tarsier, however the fuck you pronounce it, the original studio that developed the first two games, they've moved on. This is the publisher not letting go. With Supermassive Games, not to be confused with, I don't remember their names, but the development studio who made Hades, they have a very similar name. But no, I'm talking about Supermassive Games, the people who made Until Dawn. Now, they're not bad at making scary games. As a matter of fact, like, Until Dawn is an extremely scary game. However, it's they're very different. The Supermassive Games found what they were good at, and they stuck with it. They found what type of game they could make, and they stuck with it. But now they're suddenly making Little Nightmares 3, and I am terrified. Because that game could end up sucking complete ass. Like, Little Nightmares 2 was a sequel that explored more of the world. I almost said we, but I'm not a part of that. Like, the developers had stated that the world outside of the Maw, like before I think even before Little Nightmares 2 was announced, the developers had stated that the world outside of the Maw was even crazier, and the Maw was the closest thing to anything normal in the world, so that the world needed the Maw. So Little Nightmares 2 was just showing that world. And I gotta admit, I think I feel safer in the Maw. At least there's a maximum of 2 TVs, one of which has been completely broken. The other one, well, Okay, the other one is still unaccounted for, but whatever. But Little Nightmares 3 might be a sequel for just for the sake of a sequel, but it might be showing more of the world. It looks like it's going to be showing more of the world, but it seems to be it might very well be a completely different world to the one. Like I don't know if anyone. I know Tobias Lilja, the guy who made the music. At least he was brought. I'm pretty sure he's been brought back for the soundtrack for the third one. But other than him, I don't know if anyone else that worked on the original two are involved. And yeah. Now, something I know they've done well is that new audio series, The Sounds of Nightmares. It's 6 episodes. That it's just 6 episodes, but god damn, it is good. It's not directly set in the world of Little Nightmares. It's set right next to it. And I know, and Mike Super Horror Bro Mike, and It's Just Jord have each written episodes of it. Now you might think, oh no. And as a Payday player, I know how bad it can go if you just bring in YouTubers. However, their episodes are really fucking good. I wouldn't say that they're the best, mostly because none of the episodes are the best. I can't rank these episodes. They're all amazing. Now I'm not gonna spoil it for you. You should go listen to it yourself. I'm just going to say one quick thing. It sounds like the Six's raincoat has been retconned again. Like, okay, first game she just had it. Very Little Nightmares. Raincoat Girl and Six were completely separate characters, where Raincoat Girl died and it was implied that, okay, that's where Six got her raincoat. Then Little Nightmares 2 was like, nah, that's not it. She found it outside of the hospital. Okay, fair. But now suddenly suddenly Six had it all along. It was a yellow raincoat was apparently, or is this CC character a raincoat girl? They might have retconned it, they might not have. It's heavily implied that CC is Six. I mean, just the name implies it a lot. But there's some weird story implications. But other than that, really good. And that's also how I know they're keeping the same composer here, because look, if you see on screen, because I'm doing the soundtrack shit live while I'm doing this because I suck at editing and shit, so I'm just doing this shit live. You can see same name all across the board, including The Sounds of Nightmares. But yeah, Little Nightmares 3, I'm still planning on playing it when it comes out, because come on, it's the sequel to my favorite game of all time. Like, I love Little Nightmares 2. It is my favorite game of all time. Like, I might not play it all the time, but I fucking love it. Like, sure, I might spend more time playing, like, Payday, Team Fortress 2, or Madness Project Nexus, but Little Nightmares 2 will forever be my favorite. It's not as It's not that replayable, but other than that, it's amazing. And Little Nightmares 3, it could be better, it could be worse, it could ruin the entire series for me. But that's how it is, isn't it? When they're making a sequel for a game, they're always gambling. They're always gambling. Are we making Devil May Cry 3 or Devil May Cry 2 here? Are we which one are we making here? Are we making? They might be making the best game in the series according to some. Like they might be making the worst game in the series according to everyone. And I'm honestly, like I've already said, I'm terrified. I am terrified that this game will be complete ass. Like I'm I'm not trying to talk shit about Supermassive Games. Like I said, they're really good at what they do. Like what they know, the games they know how to make, they know how to make them. Until Dawn, the Dark Pictures Anthology, The Quarry, they know how to make those games. I'm not very interested in them, but that doesn't mean they're bad. They're extremely good. But Little Nightmares, that's a very different beast that they're gonna have to handle without any experience. Now, I hope that they've had a long development time already, and most likely they most likely have. But I really hope they've at least had time to get used to making a Little Nightmares game first before being thrown into it. Yeah, that's really all I have to say. I'm scared. This might go well. It might go to shit. Let's just pray we have a Devil May Cry 3 on our hands. See you some other time, I guess.